we'll get started slowly. The text comes.
Bo jun de de ji xin xin bo da jun bo yang da bo do be san ge re bo xiao zun den bo de wo re xin bo ji den gen bo ge bu du ka lo yu pa na me bo pa dong me na ge dong ba san ge jun den de be je wo xia jia tu bo la cha le 这多家族接我，等我中的的些些话，这中国样的不是走个三月，这波上小组联邦的我这些帮今天见报就对，我那没报那当没能给等报三月中的别给我下个土包了，这多家族接我。 Udambo jumden de jin sheba da jumbo yada bobe sanje rimbo dan shase jamba te vore sheba jine gemba jivu duve kala girva lana meba ada menange jumbo sanje jumden de bege wa shagya dubo la chan chudo jaze je Kane so kedande sajen de lo gomba du morne ngade jide de na choje so de ze ke ba kyo la ja na do bu ma cho do du zo wa ye je ga do se ge lom bo ra ra ba jide zo na la me wa bu chu ne kyo la ja se lo sen jo den bo jime da we ja Sendo trawa kyola jota. Tura kyona siva suma je nyame kinji kyola jota. Gombo tuje je denpa kamje kembe tenpa bo. Sona yende gyazo je deshin shela chaza. Tabe dresha rewa gewe niso le rosh. Chido dana chigir ba shigir chila chaz. Rone roe la yande la ba da la rune. Shinje damba yende gendu la yan chaz. Deva je ame cha je gewa punsun so barge. Range sene yonsu du dene sange temba yim. Kama rabire mani dan yuma sewa chupurdam Melo lodan dida Deji chena didar dan Sana de tamji sibayi Wabon tobne gyenge radende Gada nadan chiwe lapchu de Sibe chode do Promara To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, to God the knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, completely and sublimely, the destroyer of the glorious gospel, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise in, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one God, the thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. For those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community and tinting virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Do these merits make sentient beings, attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death.
Papa kunjoso la cha selo dige dagi toba duje na jonden de gyabo ka jago bumbo re long ge long ge gen jembo da janju semre gen jembo da ta je de de jonden de zamo na wa she jawe chuge na ra ge denge zen la nyo bar shu so yan de Anju Zemba Zemba Jumbo Baba Jimmy Wancho Cherokee Paro to Jimba Samo Chuba Nila number Tashing Umbo Mabo Deda Laya Rajin Getomba number Tao Dene Sange Getu Sedan Demba Sharibu Janju Zemba Zemba Jumbo Baba Jimmy Wancho La Lesu Ike Meso Rigi Bu Ganla La Cherokee Paro to Jimba Samo Cheba Chuba Duba De Chikara Labora Cha Dike Cheme Badang Janju Semba Semba Shembo Baba Chene Se Wanchu Ki Sedan Demba Sharada Debula Dike Cheme So Sharibu Rigi Bu Mo Kanla La Sheragi Paro De Jemba Sama Cheba Choba Tuba De Itar Nambar Tawar Jade Pumbo Ngabo De Dala Yara Jeje Tombora Nabo Yanda Bar Shizu Tao Su Tomba Tomba Ni Suso Suli Tomba Ni Shimayin Tomba Ni Lekyang Su Shimayin Dejindu Sorwa Dang Deshi Dang Nambar Sheba Nang Tomba Sharibu Ande Darshu Danje Tomba Ni De Sinye Meba Maikeba Magaba Tima Meba Tima Dang Shao Chiwa Meba Gangwa Meba Sharibu De Dawena Tomba Jilo Sume Sorwa Me Dushi Me Nambar Sheba Me Mime Nawa Me Dame Chime Lume Yime Zume Rame Shime Rome Reja Me Chume Domige Game Bane Ige Game Ige Nambar Shebe Kanki Batu Yame Do Mare Bame Mare Ba Seba Me Bane Kashi Sebe Batu Yame Do Dongo Wadang Kunjung Wadang Gopa Dang Lame Yishime Toba Me Madoba Yame Do Jaribu Sedo Wena Janju Simba Nang Toba Me Bichir Cheragi Baru Du Jimba Latin Jimbe De Simla Riba Me Shin Raba Me De Shinji Lole Shindo Dene Nyangele Deve Tarar Shindo Duzundo Namba Shube Sanje Tamje Gyan Cheragi Baru Du Jimba Latin Jimbe Yanda Barazo Janju Dungo Barazo Barasan Yesu De Dawana Shiraji Baru Du Jimbe Nga Riba Jimbe Nga Lana Mebe Nga Minyamba Danyambe Nga Tunga Tanje Rande Shivar Shepe Nga Mizun Wena Dembar Shivar Jati Shiragi Baru Du Jimbe Nga Meba Tayanda Gade Gade Paragande Barasam Gade Buddhi Swa Janjo Simba Simba Jimbo Dedar Shiragi Baru Du Jimba Samola Lapar Shawo Dene Chomdende Tinge Dele Shingde Janjo Simba Simba Jimbo Baba Shineze Wanchula Legdo She Jawa Legdo Riki Bu Dede Shinde Shidar Gyoge Tempa Shindu Shiragi Baru Du Jimba Samola Chebar Jandi Dejan Shaba Nam Gyan Jesu Yirango Chomden Dege Dege Cheka Setan Demba Sharandan Debudan Semba Jumbo Baba Jine Se Wanchu Dan Tanje Dan Dembe Kuru De Dan Padam Midan Tama Yedan Shita Chebe Dijen Yiran De Chomden Dege Sumba Lang Bare Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "How should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, "O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Satipatra, all phenomena are empty without characteristic. They are unborn and unceasing. They're neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Satipatra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond. There is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed, Tayat Gandhi Gandhi Bhara Gandhi Bhara Samgati Bodhi Swaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering, and were listening.
뭐야, 아마도 된 사이만 전자네 난그 난축 다 전자래 난제 전자 세다다 인도 좀마다 난배 난축 최최 맞지 세야겠다 아니 지 간다 최최디 나네다 모두 다 남지 좀 맞지 남림 어디 없앤디 상주 남림 샷데 근데 지금 요새다 인디 아주 최최디 최기 나는 초도 주고 인부 창주 람림 제자인도 창주 람림 최발라 아니 당뭐 진도가 좋아 그런 미하고 아니 뭐시 지도 좀 창주 셈이 고바 아니 딜라 때는 랑기다 레지 탐제 다 도와 대지기 치도라도 맞아 최진이 지금 열해서
It is Sunday now, and Sunday's topic is the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. When we speak of the practice of the Dharma, or that which would not be the practice of the Dharma, here within practice of the Dharma is the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. This is then our topic in this presentation, and when we study the great treatise, we are taking up the very essence of the path. The path and all of its stages is founded upon first an enthusiasm for that path, this then being preliminary, followed by the actual meditations on the two minds of awakening, two forms of bodhicitta, and then all throughout the purification and elimination of karmas and afflicted minds.
Oh, yeah, that indeed. 당아서 제다 마체세 빈센트라우디 아니 저 가르치는 책으로 마치는 가리요레스 딱게 이제 저들에 제단다 취지 마치세디 랑기 대둑 동에 두고요 말에 대화는 고고요 제단다 대화 용어야 단 동에세 타라면 열에 요 말에 여봐이는 아니 가르세요 that is said to have any chula del said to race that big lane de la ni that chunya men ke she de yo yo raison.
So then, to speak of the Dharma, or rather than to not practice the Dharma, two alternatives. What is the reason underlying a choice to practice the Dharma? Why would one need to practice the Dharma? And if one did not, what would the consequence be? So there are these two questions. The Dharma, not the Dharma. The Dharma is rooted in the acknowledgement that we wish for contentment and wish to avoid dissatisfaction and pain. Then is there a way to eliminate that dissatisfaction and pain? Is there a way to achieve contentment? If there is a way, what is that way? That way would be then through the Dharma.
Oh, if that is Hinduism, that dewa le dewa nalola dewa khurang de sen nalola dewa chumo ding chimbo dewa sulu suzugi onbo da 참베게 dewa chi중 중과 망고 열에 dewa chimbo 고고 예나 아니 냠네 chimbo dewa ding 고고 있는 냠네 ding dewa chi중만 고고면 냠네 chiju고 근데 그 바트는 로를 해서
And in all the forms of contentment that there are, and there are many forms, there are contentments that are smaller and those that are middling and then those that are greatest of all. And each is suited to or follows from a person's capacity and faculty. And so there are many stages for the achievement of the various forms of contentment. But if we wish for the greatest bliss, greatest contentment, then we would undertake the greatest practice. If we wish for the middling sort of contentment, then a middling kind of practice. And if for little contentment at all, then a lesser form of practice.
근데 인도에서 맞다 만족을 탄다. 아니 감수대로 젠다 가르시고 장주 람리스. 장주 람지를 봤으니 되다 가르스는 대화가 대화 치쇼 공부는 너보고 지야. 대양 대화 치부 되지 토비하게 아니 냠네 지하게 치돌라 아니 퇴선 고슴 지리요래 퇴선 고슴 지하게 로데디 가르스는 장줄람을 치모스 되진다 된다 되려서 롭쟁이 민들 장줄람을 치모세거든 장죽 시리즈마 하나도 톱제 대화 될세 대화 타도 초도 줘봐 이 토비하게 된다라 아니 냠네 가리 퇴선 고슴 치고 퇴선 고슴 지하게 아니 하나 지하게 로데비 가르스는 장줄람을 치모스 제가 그거 주제대 첨부, 연례대 첨부. 이래 이제 걸 배제대 민라요. 나는 첨부 다 요래서
Then we here now gathered together, turn to the stages of the path to the enlightened state. That enlightened state, awakening, being of all the forms of contentment, the greatest of all, the greatest bliss known by those, or rather undertaken by those of sharpest faculty. This greatest form of satisfaction is achieved through study and contemplation and meditation. And the text for this undertaking and listening and in contemplation and in meditation is the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, this very text. The state that would be achieved is awakening itself, which is the greatest form of satisfaction there is, the most sublime form it can take. And to that end of awakening, we study and contemplate and meditate upon this particular text, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. The topic itself, the subject matter itself is grand,
and the practice is grand, and then the result itself is tremendous. And the name, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment.
Oh, yeah. That in the Indu, Tamazuki, Maranzuka, Chu, Nien, Tuya, Tamaranzula. In the Indu, that they watch him with the watch Mazuki, they watch him with the Yes, and that can end on the Gartigosna. That they were going to show the Juba, Changju, and Changju Chimbo. That is Ruby Yes. That did Rubia Sedula, that was about to see you. You do them that he called Kulung. The Kandar Teji Dova Chebala, Toma Kulung Tone, Tibochim Church, Drova the Kovior. As a Kulung Tone, and Jubu Chimbu to be, T. Truby Chidula, and a choose of the Yen and the Berang to the Tadu Tova Chigi and the Kulung Teji Joe was a Yasmos.
We then are able to study as we will when our studies follow from the commitment to achieve the greatest form of contentment, the most sublime form of awakening. Among Bodhi, awakening, the Mahabodhi, the great awakening. To the end of realizing this, the study and the contemplation and the meditation. The study and meditation and contemplation is motivated by a refined intention. The refined intention allowing the practice to become the Mahayana practice. That is, I will achieve great awakening, and I will, turning to this very text and studying it, so that I do in fact realize the enlightened state.
What is it? That Kulung to the song, the Kulung to the Tamado Chanju Lamrim Chibu Nishi Chidu, Kulung Juedi, Hida Kachimbo. Karsana Mazuki Chu, Nyamba, Sheba, Tuba, Yang Yamlen Karicheba Ina and Chus, Droyagi, Yachula, Drojunidi, Kulung the Resu.
So that's how the intention is refined. And when one instructs in the Dharma and listens to the Dharma, the intention is all important in the listening and the contemplation and the meditation and whatever the other activities one undertakes, the intention underlying those is important.
That is it. That is the Mother Kulung Chizu, the Sinsan, that Mushing around the Chunian, Chanju Larindi, that Lamrim shared Samdi, and also Kawas, Lamrim the Kawashi, there was not that Chanju Lamrim said that Chanju Jebu Chanju Hobiala. 그 장주 셈니 장고를 무시기 장주 셈 장야들 장주 셈 종어 제발라 아마 종투에 뉴바고 뉴바도 소야 치돌라 그 소남사고 소남소야 돈달라 아니 저에 추투디 야메디 메나 장주 셈 줄에 제투하게 뉴바 당기 말에 뉴바도 다양하게 치돌라 장 모두 추투디 참고고 되도 다당하고 모두 추투고 나네 아니다 뭐 선데 Sunday Chene, Sunday de Sarneta, Manzo Lamrim, Lambi, Zumba, Shalom Chesek, Yamlentic on to your resource.
So then the way the intention is refined is well described now, and we move to the actual meditations itself in the stages of the path to find where we are, where we left off. These are stages on the path to the awakened state that is the result. It results from the two classes that are the two forms of bodhicitta, and we are training in these. But in order to successfully train in these, we must have sufficient potential and capacity to realize these. That capacity comes from our autonomy and merit. The 6 preliminary practices. Preliminary practices are for accumulating merit and autonomy. Without sufficient merit and autonomy, there is no capacity for developing the minds of awakening. So the preliminary practices. And in these preliminary practices, where do we find ourselves now? But in the review of the stages of the path, the review meditation. That's where we are now.
Oh yeah, today this is what Lamrim city, Lamji Rimba city, Lam Manguchi, Tangape Manguchi Yubachi. And then call it Rimba Machi, Rimba Tanguini was Sumbachi, Rimba in the Yuba. Oh, God in it took the Juk Diba to say, Rimbachi Yuba in the Lamrim channeling the level.
In the path, with its many stages, and there are many stages along the path, they take an order, 1, 2, 3, and proceed from start to finish.
Oh, today you do some time as Lamrim singing the go cane, Lamrim go cane to what is not, go shini the Juk Milubi, some Juks, or go the cook among us on the response.
Where does the path begin? In reliance upon the spiritual mentor. And where does it finish? But in this unified state of no more training.
Oh yeah, today you do some time, Lamji Rimba Tilla, Lovia, Rimba, Madu Lam, Rimba, the Tangu Nivas, Tanga Yuba, you do, Tangu, Maranzola, that Chidan, Chiong, Lamri, Lamji Rimba, Lovia, never married, almost nobody Zuki, young Mola Chadu, same Jang, any Chadu, same Jang, any young Modu to Chola Jang too, but there you are. That much on the Chiong, Lamji Rimba, Sheba ina. 신이 되네 대조 되지 얘가 메다바 근데 내 균제 아니 된제 아니 되네 장주고 셈 고매야지 그것을 받지 나도 되게 용당하게 참 그래서 받지 얘기 어려서
In this training then, which is progressive, beginning with the first stage followed by a second and a third, we follow this way. That is progressive in this way. It is the general and ordinary order of the stages of the path. There is an alternative to those of the very keenest faculties who might begin with their training in the minds of awakening and then only follow those then later with preliminary trainings. But we, in the ordinary order of the progression, begin with our reliance upon the spiritual mentor, meditations on the difficulty of achieving a human rebirth and its significance, impermanence and death, karmic causality and pratitya samutpada dependent origination in that customary order.
Oh yeah, that was because I didn't want to share this about. 신이 때문에 편유도 마음에 이미 시기 없이 차례 이내 대조 대진이가 되시 차례 아니 디네 맞은 다 치워 메다버 거데 시 차례 아니 나나도 레규데 나나도 이 규데 제국을 남샤 규창주고 셈 고를 제국 창주 도비야 어야 주 저의 추주를 자니 무시 창주 셈 줄라 계약 어디 규데 제국을 남샤 되게 돼 영향나 아니 레규데 남샤 때서 더 심하지 그거 열에서
The advantages of relying upon the spiritual mentor, the disadvantages of neglecting to do so, we've described. Momentariness, rather, the difficulty of achieving a human embodiment and its significance, too, we have described. And momentariness and imminent death, too, we have described. We are concerned now with karmic causality, the relationship between causes and their results, the causes that are the two minds of awakening, which result in the awakened state, the causes that are preliminary practices, which result in the capacity for the development of the minds of awakening. Now we are concerned then with karmic causality, and karmic causality must be understood.
Oh, that is it. That you do another time. 대화식이지. that 고야 먼저 주비하기 대화되라. 아니 지단 대화 망고여 사진에 보는 시선 대화들이 망고여 이내다. 수 초범 전나 세디기 대화다. 아니 세심한 편지기 대화스. 대화 대니나 아무 대니나 방 모두 시는 생고해서
Contentment is what we would achieve. There are many forms that contentment takes, as I've said already. But if we sum them up, then there are contentments known in this life, and then those contented states in subsequent lives. To identify these two is important. So to pain in this life and pain in subsequent lives.
대화 두배를 세대기 대화 두배 요를 심화 편지기 대화 두배 요가디 강가 셴바체 다 맞아 단다 장주를 최냐면시 제 최냐면 제 세디 아니 다 세대기 대화라 삼로 땅에 아니 라기 직파게 냠내 가르쳐봐 있나요 아니 단다 장주 라르니 셰베게 아니 냠내 제 세디 공은 제야요 말했어 다 장주 라르니 셰베 냠내 제 세디 아니 다 가르치는 냠내 지고르스나 랑 대화 두고르스 난 대화 가르 두고르스나 심화 편지기 대화생 어디 리더달 아니 나도 최대기 냠내 지고고 열어서
Therefore, there are contentments which we might achieve in this life, but when the practice of the Dharma is the concern, if one is interested in contentment in this life alone, and whatever one does in the form of Dharma practice, but with this end of contentment in this life, these practices are not, in fact, part of the stages of the path. They're not part of it. The stages of the path to enlightenment follow from the interest in contentment in subsequent lives that motivate the practice of the Dharma.
Oh yeah, 근데 이게 좀 맞다가서 세대기 대화라면 다 간다 대화디 세대기 대화디 가장 친주 유유 주주 팀주지 대화지래. 뒤에 대화를 대단코 조직 깔래게는 누구야다 좀 편바이 받는데 개 제야 말했어. 나체 치매 대화 치마 편지기 대화슬라나 가장기 대화 친구 대화 망보 대화 유림보 배인들 차려 제가 그 치매 편지기 대화 개체 차기 어려서
Satisfactions in this life are very minuscule, very temporary. When we work very hard at them, we don't find any very great results. But satisfaction, contentment in subsequent lives are tremendous. They are long-lasting, so they are important to us.
보이다 상조 지도 당하는 쪽을 더 신달에 확백이다 나중에 제투에 여봐 제고의 여봐 근데 다 자녀의 망보지 열었어 그래서 인류다 말하더라 아니 대조금 이 튕진 차상 상 개인 탐지다 제네 여배 내가 들라 당 나중에 아니 다 냠내 차상 대화 친구 차상 두 받아 그 고기 여봐게
In the ordinary world too, the human being is set apart from other sentient beings in their great capacity. With their great capacity, their great responsibility. They have all conditions for in the leisures and endowments of the human biological endowment and in freedom from the great adversities that others know, the capacity and potential to achieve the greatest form of contentment. This is our capacity now.
다 인디 삼바 만족이다 추케 렘바다 말렘바 생각도 지도난다 고 추케 랭기요 고 추케 랭기요 말스 다 계제 미 가전으로 책이 열었어 세상 다디 추요리 잠바다 추케 렘바다 말렘바 얘기 개발 가네 충원에서 가네 연구열에서나 세 디기 대화 찍고를 삼았다나 저 켈렌 거야 비긴 믹스에 요 말레스 다쳐 켈렌 거한테 치마 편지기 대화스 켈렌 바레 레마 이자 다쳐 켈렌 거 요레스 모스
And then do some accept the dharma, others do not. In society, we say here are those who accept the dharma and those that do not. What is the difference between the two? The primary concern being this life alone, there's no reason for an acceptance of the principles of the dharma, but in the acknowledgement of subsequent lives, then the reason to accept the principles of the dharma.
Oh, yeah, that indeed, that 세치마 켈렌 사와이나 다 세치마 생이디 다 간데스 쪽으로 다 세치마라 대화 간데스 쪽으로 다 주어들려레스 다쳐 가르치는 쪽으로 저 직체 아니 다 세치 제야 다 세치마 편지 대화 보고도스 다 대화도 간데스 쪽으로 해서 다 딩모 간데스 치마 편지라 아니 대화 쪽으로 간데스 공신거래서 다 주어들려서 디 수행을 한다라 아니 나다 돈이 책 교육인다. 이 디시지만 책. 아니 디숭게 디숭이.
디 양게 직성다. 다디 아니 치와만 다원 문다원 니여버지라.
어야 교회라 이 다치 최고배 주제 그래서와 아니 다치 저 치마 세 치마 나를 대화 보고 요 치마 편지를 대화 보고 요스 렌제. 다 치마 편지를 대화디 아니 다 간데스도 그래스. 대화 이어받이 아니 간데스 신기르스. 저니제 다 되게 시야 한달 아니 나다 시외제서 류다 지마신이세. 거기 책. 시외제서 류다 지마시 까나는데 지 정말라스. 이게 나는 예바세 뭐니네.
Acknowledging subsequent lives then and accepting those, then the concern of how it would be that one would achieve some contentment in those subsequent lives becomes relevant. The recognition that in subsequent lives we would wish for contentment. How would we then achieve it? How would we then achieve it? How is it identified? These are the orienting questions. We accept the subsequent lives. We wish to ensure contentment then. And how is it contented? How is that contentment achieved? And to describe this, the verses from the foundation of all good qualities. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this.
Oh, yes, that is that. 나 시외 지도 아니 가르치기래 했다. 시외 제사라다 맞아. 저 개말에는 시외 제도 로세바나지 나팅 침바레스. 곧 침바 켈렌 잡아이다 곧 녀라요 말아. 곧 녀라 봤어. 그랑 녀라 켈렌요 말아. 나 맞아 시외 제도 로 나팅 침만나시 말에 시외 제도 류다 침만나시 레스 빼자 류다 류기 침나여와 대나시 레스 류 가와에서 tim나데 뭐 tim나 가와에서 류 용거를 빼대나 신생 시작을 해서
With death, what's next? What happens then? It's another thing entirely for those who do not accept the subsequent life, for whom death is the turning off of the lights, and then there's no problem afterward. We don't assert no such problem afterward. That karma follows along as a shadow follows the body. Wherever the body is, there is inevitably the shadow. Wherever the shadow is, you'll find the body.
Oh, yeah, that man's 가르쳐야 돼. 류도 저만나 hin지는 가르치기로 했어. 아니, 레 까나 레 가나도라 단다 미지 딜라. 디다다 세모마 단다 바도라 사베 레 게와 레 미게와 레 로마테 숨이어레스. 아니, 고도 숨기 아니 맞고 남시디 키는 도그래 손시. 고도 남시디다 가두이네 류도 저만나 hin지는 고 셈디 냠돌 레비온 그래. 레디 셈디 파샤 레디 파샤가 요 말에 레 가리 까나 숨디 냠돌 레비온 그래 손시.
And after death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma. The virtuous karmas, the non-virtuous karmas accumulated in this life, the virtuous karmas and the non-virtuous karmas accumulated from the past too, and those karmas that are unspecified, a presentation of karmas along the lines of virtuous, unspecified, and virtuous. These inform our understanding of karmic causality such that where there is just as where there is a body, there is the shadow. Where there is the mind, there is the karmas. It isn't the case that here is the mind and there are the karmas separate. They are together just as a body is together with its shadow.
다 이제 인도 좀 봤다 만족이 다이 랜드레 버렸다 이 치마기 대화디 된다라 아니 가르쳐 버렸으나 세딜라 아니 레 디버사기요 말 레게와 사고레 세다 랜드레 부여래서.
And the response to this then is that we would, aware of a subsequent life, in this life, forego non-virtuous actions and engage in only virtuous actions. This is the response.
Oh yeah, 이 칼레스레스. 저디 아니고는 저리가 칼레스레스는 다 레게와 메게와 로마테 숨 숨이 열어 숨 나네 다 숨이 예배 나네 다 가르치는 수도 채워 여나야 디기 아니 남시들 디데 체도 그래서 뭐지 숨보다네 레게와 또 채워 미게와 또 채워 로마테 또 채워 숨이 열어 어떤 레게와 또 채워 여나 아니 제부 대화 토비알 바티로 그래 레 미게와 또 채워 여나 제부 동일 두별 동의에서 바티로 그래 로마된 숙제에나 아니 개미게 가야 매버 길 되래서.
How does it go then? How does it come about then? The same question comes around again. Virtues and non-virtues and unspecified karmas. There are these three, are there not? As there are these three, then the one which predominates determines the consequences that ensue. Should virtues predominate the others, then contentment is found. Where non-virtues predominate the others, then one is led to a place of great pain. And where unspecified karmas predominate, then one is left in the middle then.
Well, that about on this cuts into city, that manzo kanda, that's manzo sure can get killing your she to do, and manzo looting and namshit about turn to do, and namshit le gawa the trip, Migawa the trip, tomato in the chest, or the just on the down restaurants.
Just to clarify quickly, we accept impending death. With death, in the projection of the consciousness, whether that's caused by predominating virtues, non-virtues, or unspecified karmas, is our concern here.
Oh, not in it, they can't top chow, the take rest, Labsarwa, the six. Now, not top Yabayina, who the Kanga top Chigbayina, Kalsi rest to a letter. That Chigbayina, Komba Kanda Yawa Kangla, Komba Kangla, Kumji Chawina, Timon Lepres.
Done in the gear what up. Chewy, you know?
I give it your tigger. Miguel top chow in the Miguel tigres. Top Chijung the Lapsaiba. Top Chijung car top chow in the court tigres. Top Yabayina. And Komba, Kano Kumji, Komba chow in a Timon Lepres.
Where virtue predominates, that this determines. Where non-virtue predominates, that this determines an unspecified karmas. Now, where a person's virtue and their non-virtue are equal, then what will the outcome be? That with which one has grown more accustomed will determine the outcome.
Oh, yeah. That young beautiful there. That on the Kuni Komba Eagle, Komba Chiba Yuna, and the Karsi rest to that. Yawata Miguel Eagle, Komba Chibu Yuna, and the Suti rest, and I'm sure the Sunyam to do rest, Laura. You know, do rest na one to can't seba, Dinyam to do rest. One Karsi Dinyam to do rest.
Chiwa la, chiwa rangla. Chiwa kap rangla.
Chiwa Konam Shit, Chiwa long. How can you top to you Nyambache? Nyambamase, Kuni Kombachi, Nyamba Yuna, and it Karsi rest to watch it. And a moon Karcheva, Mona Digwache, Yandigwadi, Mona to do it. Mona Gawache, Yangawadi to do rest.
And then the question comes up all over again, which is, supposing they are the karma, the virtuous karmas and the non-virtuous karmas, equal in strength and equal in the degree to which one is familiar with them, then what will determine the consequence for the consciousness? Here, that which follows for the consciousness is whichever of the two, virtue or non-virtue, arrives first for it, then at the moment of death.
Oh, yeah, that could two some down was for two some down. So top chewa, top check the much with two a chick check. And top to you nearby Yina and Kuba, Suchewa, Suchibare, you to a niche. And nearby Yina, Mona Digwache, Gawache, or to a sundo, that dealer Susu, some down and land have your response.
We have these three rounds of questions then. First, which predominates, virtue or non-virtue? Then the second question, should it be the case that they are equal in force, then what determines the outcome? The greater or lesser degree of familiarity with each determines the outcome. And then the third question, with equal familiarity with karma, with virtue and non-virtue, what will determine the outcome? That which presents itself first then.
Oh, yeah, you do. I'm around some of that. Gawa the Miguel Chidu, Alam Miguel top chewa Yuba, Neva, Chixe. Tiny Badella, combat, Mazula, Gawa, combat, Chila, you knew it. Miguel, combat, Hassan, Chimbuchadi. Niche. That dinner and more to culture, Gawachi or the Guachi, more Gawachi or the Gaja Hadan Manga Chatare. The Guachi or the Hazan, Gaja Manga, Gawachi or the Gaja Yunga. 제가 다 아주 연가 차고는 내대요. 그래서
Alechidandi, ngona lebedi, chika lamor la ngona lebedi, la tigre, chedan.
말때 저는 이 고민도 아주 지조 나라서 되게 용당 나라서 삼로 땅다나 지조 삼미 되게 삼로 땅다나라 여와도 미개원이 수법 체살에 kil로 잡어다
La di
kil로 잡어서 뭐 아주 파지 미개원 kil로 채워 여봐 파지 얘기를 찍세 아 되네 오늘 공부지어라 공부 공부 대한 미개원 가서 공부 망아요래 개월 공부 용어요래 아 개월도 미개원이 수모를 체결했으려나
Sungon la chegere labnani gadu.
디바몰 지그래 겨울
Gadu. Kap gagila. Kap gagila labio.
드링 차시
Darin says.
드링 차시 나도만 디바망 드링 디바몰 제도 겨울 제도 미지딜 겨울 제도 디바몰 제도 가린 두수 가린은 제라 여러와 알 드링 차시 드링 차시 고대
Then in these questions, first, in the relative strength, non-virtue versus virtue, definitely for us, there's greater strength behind our non-virtues. Certainly. So that for one. And then regarding our familiarity with virtue and non-virtue, certainly we are less familiar with virtue and much more familiar with non-virtues. That too. So then we look to see also, what is the foregoing condition to, a virtuous one or a non-virtuous one? Which is presenting itself first to us at any given time? Maybe most readily understandable is today, for example, which presents itself first, the virtue or the non-virtue? Likely enough, the non-virtue. So in all three cases, we find ourselves in a perilous position.
이네 마야 요 공부지 저거 찍당 이네 다 미개와 숙체와 유나 가르치 그래 개와 숙체와 유나 가르치 그래 다 대투와 딜레스 다 미개와 숙체와 유나 아니 랑게다 내 손을 깨도 그래 개와 숙체와 유나 안 밤에 고마 톱네 대와 두배 고급을 그래 손을
And then we go forward again. And what follows from a preponderance of non-virtues? And what follows from a preponderance of virtues? From the greater non-virtues follows hell realms. From greater virtues, a fortune of heavenly rebirth and human rebirth.
오야 다 근데 이들 다 만족 가리고 그랬어 만족도 다 디나라 최고야 균생 디나라 만족 대화 고기에서 대화 두비에 두주고이 대화 고이에서 다 대화 고기에나 아니 뭔데 하면 고마마도 대화 두고 말해 다 두고이에나 아니 최고래서 다 대랜딜레서
And then in the rationale for an interest in the Dharma, then our desire for contentment. And when we desire contentment, we wish for the time to ensure that we find contentment. Apart from the fortune of a heavenly rebirth and a human rebirth, we will find no time to ensure that contentment. And so now we undertake to ensure that we find the time with the rebirth as a human being or a heavenly being to ensure contentment for ourselves.
개와 보야기도 개와 두고래서 개와 간데스 두고래 아니 디바 빵고래 디바 간데스 빵고래 다 디바 빵야 단 개와 두야 탄달라 아니 대티 라발레레 소문지
We wish for contentment, virtues ensure contentment. How will we engage in our virtues? We wish to abandon non-virtues. How will we abandon non-virtues? The solution falls into our laps with the name of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment.
오예 다 시외지도 루다 정말 가난한 레지로 네버 때문에 네버 때문에 네세 다네 네스를 하지 다네네 가르치고 레스나 안 되지 오마송다 계속 타다 두 번째 벌로 따도 받아내 뭐 진일로
네 라팔로 예스 네 송송 계시기 아니 차페디 야만네 아니 람름 람름 라이바 제사 서 참았어 네 라샤
그냥 나올라
and then here, finding firm and definite conviction in this, I must abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Please bless me always to be mindful.
오예 세상다 다 개와 컨디스 투구레스도 아니 고승기 예버 첨부 타다 봐 방신 개와 탐지 두벌 채고 레스터 된다 디제 디 된다라 예버 첨부년이 되로 측단을 가서 거들다
Nieba dimbo niene niebe zo chashin chawa nang kyang pong wan.
네 맞대스 거들 말단 좀 마셔도스 시외제소 르다 제마신 가나레지 예버 때문에 예배 초 차신 차와 남자 봉화 당스 예배기 초 아니 차신 차와 남자 봉화 최고래 계속 계획이 초 타다 차신 차와는 루버 최고래스 이 루베가 된다는 바유 시신 때마다 고래서 어디 랜딩 내려도
And the response then to this is finding firm and definite conviction in this, the result of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, I must abandon even the slightest negativities. All negativities, all negativities, including the slightest negativities, must be abandoned. And I must accomplish all virtuous deeds. All virtuous deeds. The subtle, the slight, all virtuous deeds. And this is achieved through conscientiousness and vigilant introspection.
아니 계산 시에 참들래 돼요. 말. 아니 레 가상어도 사지 시간 봐. 남지 신하나 가래. 내 예바 내 패쳐와. 내 마체 봐도 매체 봐. 내 제바 취미 사와스. 나 사지 시디야 고 예고래 손어지.
To apply the presentation of karmic causality to practice through a review of the subject matter in a review meditation. This is where we have arrived. The presentation here is of karmic causality. And karmic causality itself has four features. There are four principles to karmic causality. That karma is definite, increasing, that one does not meet with karmas for which one is not responsible, and that karmas are not diminishing. These must be comprehended well. The first principle, karma is definite, is to say from any virtuous karma, contentment certainly follows. From any non-virtuous karma, pain and discontents certainly follow. That there's no alternative to this causality is the definiteness of karma.
了白下呢，首先就是白那个做行动，故事个动不着行不因呢，马特别个孙的，还像个群居基本都有嘛的，因为孙的马特差呢，后来呀，你会讲的动物这个人，罗马这个人，你早啊的、养拉的、马会这个人，他们这会这个龙角，这会这个人，这部电影就是人不把都龙角有把的这个多少，我就白得了家呢。那我那就得来米给我，等到等来给我了起来有，米给我了起来有了，因为当我做娘们就来米给我了起来，我了写过来说了些。
The karmas are increasing in the relationship between causes and results. We may first refer to external physical environments where this is demonstrated itself, that a fruit tree grows from the small planted seed. It's a small seed that germinates and grows into a sapling, then into the tree that branches, the many branches with leaves, and then finally fruits. And then the fruits continue to produce for a long time. In the presentation of karmic causality and virtue and non-virtue, this property of karmas that they are increasing is first indicated with respect to non-virtues.
Oh yeah, mo dungen di mo mo she dungen di ane dungen page le dungen mo she dungen di kana chune ju ane le di mo chu ane shine ju dungen le debu dungen chu she ba je da she chadu ane da debu dungen di kande di se gore se go yin ane ju di se go yo sa di nyamne dine ko chu ne ane shine le di pa me ra se ane dine ko shine ya nyamne che la ga dine zo re so.
In this way, pain and suffering are understood for where they come from, their causes, karmas, non-virtuous karmas, the consequence of which is pain and suffering. When this is understood, then one is concerned with how one would eliminate those karmas. One would eliminate the pain and suffering through the elimination of the karmas that underlie them. And then in this way, then gradually one eliminates these karmas and progresses along the path.
Oh yeah, le migyo la jan amo to le migyo la jan mojo chore mojo chidu zama ta ma to migyo ge chujin di migyo ma to migyo jude la amo luji sum ma gi si yi ji sum di shido o dige migyo le go migyo chujin jude la di re la bena ta le jubu de re la ya ani le migyo di chebala tene ani 주 다 밖에 다들 사병 그쳐다디 밖에 lunga le digeche illa tenne 아니 다 제부 밖에 저 진동도 동보다 양가도 되게 딱이 요가 나시 아니 난게 셈비 나눠서 셈비 난게 동에 루지 동에 셈비 동에 되기디 아니 밖에 신도 되게 제부처 차대 열었어 아니 다마 내 손으로만 깨워도 되죠 아니 제부 용어 처 차기를 해서
We first identify non-virtues. The subject here are non-virtues, the 10 non-virtuous paths of action, the 3 physical non-virtuous paths of action, the 4 verbal non-virtuous paths of action, the 3 mental non-virtuous paths of action. These are the subject then. Each of these 10 non-virtuous paths of action as a non-virtue, which is a cause, may be likened to a seed. The seed is the karma, the action of body, speech, or mind, respectively. And just as from a seed The seed germinates, the trunk grows, the trunk branches, leaves grow, and finally fruits grow in the tree. From the karmas, the mental pains, the physical pains, and finally in subsequent lives, the suffering of hell realms are the experiencing of the fruits, the consumption of the fruits produced by that tree.
Oh yeah, that's parallel. That's not quite the same. But now I really Korean 얘기 때는 두간도 삼다나 두간도 삼다 두간도 그 가지고 그때 술 거라는 뇌도 그 셈되지 어 다고 하고 거대 갈려봐 제가 연구도 그게 그센 마세는 리사 말씀 다고 쇠도 꿀lun게 아니 뭐시도 왜 약고지 마세 뭐 쉬운거한테 냄거한테 가르 냄도 봐야 그봐 또 쳐봐지 세사도 뭐다 세사인 즉송 삼아 또다 뭐 꿀lun 쇠는 리스 내라 보지 가만 찍나는 다 차상 이거 차상제 사 그것도 와서 어디 직소
To illustrate this, that moment when a mosquito comes, it looks as though it's about to bite one. One thinks, I prefer not to be bitten by the mosquito. Naturally, I'll kill it here. I intend to kill it now. This is the intention. When it lands and one smacks it and squishes it, this is the execution of the act. And then, in conclusion, when one identifies the completion of one's intended action, oh good, it's dead, it won't bother me. Then, in less than a minute, one has a whole seed.
Oh yeah, soon the tabs soon the tabs that's soon the tabs and you will get to the pair chibuman which had to the that's soon the tabs and the body lady sat and mashana lady sanyi lidu need up now lidu sheet up and do say the wonderful lady pay 거기 단데 제부 유름고 표현하시 콜레 답 쭉이야 치어 폐기를 해서 치기 빼들고 난게 셈비 레드 패쳐요 그래서
It's done, then the seed is planted. With that, it's done. The seed is planted and now grows. It grows surely if one, so long as one does not apply any antidote power to it. And it grows, multiplying by the second day, twice as great, by the second day, twice as great, by the third, 4 times as great, and increases in this way. And when, for illustration, we look to the physical material world and an increase as it occurs there, it increases at a greater rate. The rate of increase in the mind is greater than that in the physical external world.
Oh yes, that time I 지분민기로 하신 지 신도지 지분민데 내가 사는데 롱쪽으로 와. 오, 뒷난시 아, 나주고 레디 거기 민이 제마 유모도 채우듯 유모되게 쇠답네. 아니 제부 동에 룰름 배 나자 셈나 강에 어서야 내가디 다 제분미 버쳐지죠 예수.
And then a fruit, in the end, we consume, and when we meet with the mental afflictions, when a given karma meets with a mental affliction, that is the moment then to consume the result of the non-virtuous karma, the consumption of which is experienced as physical pain and mental pain.
Oh yeah, that must be 다도 소주를 잘했다. 마지막에 미사모 주가 강갈 말을 삼을 13천 잘고다 주인 삼아 지주 나게 반은 나게를 차샤와이나 아니 수수가 나게진 드링스 나게기 돈 깨제시 아니 셰베스 레사 와들네 그 디부지마 내 앞에 펜이야 제마 동에 디나시 연구를 하셨다 미게고 줄라 아 레레레 삼을다는 아니 맞아 이마직 나를 달래 미게고 가져 셰여서 수수수보다 삼을당 투가 저거 해서
For each of the non-virtues, the physical non-virtues of murder, thievery, sexual misconduct, the verbal non-virtues, deceit, slander. Take gossip. In the day when you gossip, the non-virtuous karma of the gossip will then go on to increase, so that the result of this is very great. Each of these non-virtues, each of these 10, in any given day, how many of them occur? One really must consider this and comprehend this.
Oh, yeah, that is the debate lady on to pay. Combatchimbo, top chimbo yore, combatchimbo yore. Only a chebe, Ginzendo, share to that the shake to that get the Gabi Yisons.
Non-virtuous karmas are predominating in us. We are especially familiar with them, and they come first for us. And to indicate this, I've described these non-virtuous karmas in this way.
Oh, yeah, that thing on the Gavala, the top chimbo your mares, Carcinilla, Penang on the Gava Chevel, Penang on the Mijo, Chilla, Kala Chevina, Tamukulum, Pechimbatangi, some Kulum, and Tang Sadu Samba, Tabea was the Jimbataka, Tagastan, Tang Sadu get the Tang in some Gaokom, the dig is Jongo Chusum Sawan. Manzolo Komshi, Shirakale Kabuyo. Chesan, you do, Manzo Gava, Sabion Koran, the top shinchu your response.
Virtuous karmas are not at all powerful in us. For instance, when there is a poor person and we would intend to give to them charitably a meal, we intend to, and then we provide that meal, execute, and then in conclusion we say, this is just as I intended and it's completed as I intended. This thought process itself is not familiar to us. It isn't very great in us at all.
Oh, yes, that is it. That Manzo go with Chiwadina, Tangazubi, Yawa, okay, the body, top chambo, combat chambo, Ani Petiangola Chebayina, Ani Manzo Yawa Chemadi, Niasona Hong Dugre, Chong Chambo Rasares. Chesanta di Manuya, Tapshe Tandala, that Yawa Tutan, the Kabde, Ani the lady was led the Medieval de Masaba, Sayuna, Imbotopshipone, Shabo, Shabu Yoba, or the Shana, and a Tagi Yoba, or the Digidi, Yamne Tandala, Talamin Jangu, your resons.
Non-virtuous karmas are very powerful in us. They're very familiar to us, and they always come to us first. And so, certain then would be to be born into a hell realm, and that would be a tremendous loss. Instead, we would then resist the non-virtues, ensure that should a non-virtue occur, that it is confessed to and then purified. The addressing, the resistance to non-virtues is the purpose of the very path in training.
Both that and there is that the lady around Tandabado, that Yawa woman Tandabado, around Kobeongi, Le Mamut, Le Midio, Mambusa, Yore, and Le Midio Tigiti, and do Shashana, Koperure, and a penna, they would do in Zoyame was le degree. That Tabshe Karichore, Tabshe de la, that Le was late Midio Sasha, you diggity, ko never saw it, never saw it, and that. Nimutoshi, Mena, never saw two member, or the shame of response.
Negative karmas are great in us, accumulated by us in all of our past lives until the present. The accumulated non-virtuous karmas are very great then, and if they're left be, then they will multiply all the more, and the pain that will be their result will be endless. What do we do then? What is the alternative? It is to eliminate the seed through the application of the 4 antidote powers, where the antidote powers then, though, are not applied, there's no elimination of the seed. In order to confess and purify oneself of negative karma, one needs the support for that confession and purification, and that is the refuge. It is the definitive object for confession and purification of negative karmas. Simbasum dua la, cik la, lama lagu.
Lama di gyabsum kundu yu mawarwa, gyabsum gatsu dubagi, ani gyabnegi rang tobiyaga tandala lama di gyabru chekwa kechimbo resong.
For us, the refuge is, while it is for the foundation vehicle, the Shravaka and the Pratyeka Padas, the triple refuge, in the Mahayana vehicle, the refuge is the triple refuge with the addition of the Guru. One goes for refuge to the Guru and to the triple gem in this way, not as a unnecessary addition. The Guru is no unnecessary addition, but in order to go for refuge in effect to all three completely, the Guru is the essence of all refuges, and one goes to refuge to the Guru too.
Oh yeah. Lama Pashani Kunjosum Nya Yomar, Kunjosum Pashani Lama Nya Yomarisons.
Apart from the Guru, there's no refuge through the triple refuge. Apart from the triple refuge, there's no refuge in the Guru.
Oh yeah, that was the thing that Hana, the killer, so down Dumba Shagdo, I think on the YouTube, Lumbagi, Chizo, the Tumba Chatter. That one is Tagana, killer, so then the Dumba Shagdo, think on the Lumbagi, Yugi, Church down the Tumba Dumba Shatter. One is not, then on the table Chimbuina, Lama Doji, Yamgo, Tango Lama, let's say. The
custom of presenting the Buddha as the centerpiece in the altar arrangement is a regional custom. But in truth, in the Mahayana vehicle, the refuge is resolved into the person of the Guru, and they would be the centerpiece.
Oh yeah. Lama Kunju Sungagi Mabala Chen, and Ragi, the Bagajavidu Mosumaina, and Chilap, the Nuru, or them to show your lessons.
When in the Guru, the three jewels are recognized, when the triple gem is resolved into the very Guru themselves, then the blessings that ensue are swiftest of all.
오야 당아서 군주 숨세야 될라야 아니 다 바스 삼로다 잡으시도 된다베 잡다 군조베 잡니니 어그 된다베 잡숨 군조베 잡숨서 어디 시험 보려서
Regarding the refuge, there is the conventional refuge and the ultimate refuge. There are 3 conventional refuges and 3 ultimate refuges.
오야 다 당도 담보 된다베 잡숨세 모두 시기다 된다베 잡숨세 된다베 다 산지 군조디 된다보게 잡숨은 담보 산지 군조지 아 산지 군조디 아니 추구모지가 방도이여로 방배연대도 똑배연대니 방배연대 니모 방배 방법거대 똑배연대 아니 람대기 다 람대는 말다 산지게 캠바 남제대 어디 가르스나 아니 산지게 규제 된다며 추구조라 그래서
I'll present first the ultimate refuge. The ultimate refuge, beginning with the Buddha endowed with all qualities and all realizations. Those qualities are the thorough abandonment of all that is to be abandoned, the thorough abandonment of the klesha, resulting in the state of nirodha, cessation, that is the quality found in the mind of the Buddha, and the realizations that are omniscient awareness of the Buddha, nirodha, omniscient awareness of the Buddha. These are the ultimate refuge in the very mind of the Buddha.
오야 딱 군조배 산지 군조 니용으로 군조배 잡들라 산지 군조들라 아니 그 룽고도 두고니 치수고 신신등 군이라 그래 신등이 군이라 그래 아니 룽고들라 주시 주바들라 두고서 두고도 룽고도 두고니서 어디래서
And the complementary conventional refuge, that is the Buddha, is the form body of the Buddha, that is the form body of the Sambhogakaya, which is the basis for the emanation of that which is emanated, the Supreme Nirmanakaya, both form bodies. They are the form bodies that carry out the well-being of sentient life.
오야 다 된다며 잡당 군조배 잡 산지 군조도 사소한 다 니버디 최군조를 오야 다 최군조디 최군조들라 다 어디 된다며 최군조디 고된다 남대니 고배 때마다 남지 때마다 이제 그래서 아 군조배 최군조디 아니 고배 때마다 남지 때마다 때문에 숨으로 변화 중이여라 어디를 잘 어디 어디를 된다며 군조배 최
Ali sipik inlak sunye tindrat inlak.
숨으로 변화
Oh. The ultimate refuge of the Buddha, the conventional refuge of the Buddha, then those, followed by the ultimate dharma and the conventional dharma. The ultimate dharma is the very truth of cessation and the truth of the path. The conventional dharma, the 12 scriptural categories.
오이 다 정말 심하지 다 그네 되는 담배 긴두군조 다 긴두군조대로 되는 담배 군조 뉴군조디 택바 숨이요라 택바 숨이 년대 택바 아니 택바 택바 침보 숨이요라 택바 숨지 빵도 예대돼서 빵배 예대도 또배 예대도 가래 되는 담배 긴두군조세 아니 되는 담배 긴두군조들라 택바 숨지 빵도 되다 줄래 때문에 강사지기 아니 긴두군조스 방도 되게 귤랑나게 밥에 가서 열어 어디서 가걸 긴두 군조 긴두 군조서 어디서 어디 뭐신 어디서
design 아니 빵배 빵와다 아니 똑바 된서
방보다 똑바디서
된서 데 아니 단담게
긴두 군조
근데 그런 줄 알아.
제 아니 방보다 귤에 되게 가서 열어 가서 유슈 저 치료 다시 먼저 열어 어디서 가래 빨리 밥에 네 군조 긴두 군조서
And then the ultimate Sangha and the conventional Sangha, there are three vehicles, the Shravaka Yana, the Pratika Buddha Yana, and the Mahayana, with their qualities of abandonments and realizations. The abandonments and the realizations, these qualities are the ultimate Sangha. The conventional Sangha are the individuals in whose continua there are these qualities of abandonment and realization. There are such individuals as the once returner, the never returner, and the rest. These individuals themselves with the qualities of abandonment and realizations are the conventional Sangha.
딱 구조 숨 요구할 텐데 딱 마시는 얘기를 구조 숨에서 겹마 쉬고 전에 산제 군조 무슨 겹에 전에 최 군조 겹에 네버 두비야 저거 전에 긴데 군조 군조 숨이 요구할 텐데 그래서
And why there would be three, that there are three, why there are three then is well known, likely enough to you, but it is that these are learned from the Buddha. The refuge is learned from the Buddha. Then the actual protection and refuge is provided by the Dharma. And so that the actual refuge and protection of the Dharma may be experienced, the support of the Sangha.
버전을 빼도 그럼 민 내가 좀에 직 아니 내를 탈고 유나 아니 내 모신이 암지직 야 주님이 매지 아니 중요도 제트에 타비지도 내여지고도 어디를 빼지 않는 순간에서
And in texts, this is illustrated by a person with a chronic illness who finds a doctor who can identify the illness, who then provides medicine for the illness, and then those who nurse the ill person.
야, 다들은 배트도 조선 필요한데 로젠디 마시라 도토마스에 있는다 꾸죠 숨디 아니 된다며 꾸죠다 꾸죠도 된다며 잡다 꾸죠배 잡지 아니 꾸죠 숨기 뭐 되게 야 오지 장아 아니 맞아 이것도 다야를 시다 핑계래 진짜 네나 핑계가 뒤버지 근데 저걸 질러지고 이소
And we didn't make much headway today, but in the ultimate and the conventional refuge, if these are understood, then that understanding allows for one to purify negative karmas. So the purpose of indicating these, the ultimate refuge and the conventional refuge.
Yes.
So then if we use the Q&A then to address any doubts people might have, that is useful.
Yeah.
So what's your question?
Yes, that makes sense.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. How come the negative karmas multiply if we don't apply the antidote powers, the 4 antidote powers? But so that means, unless we do something, then it won't multiply or it will stop or it will be eliminated. But what about positive karma? How come they don't multiply?
Tiwa garirela, ani dikbele, garisene ani peon drogere. Tadi teo derwa. Dene, ani nyambo topshi matena, garisene peon drogere. Ani gewa denzo, ani gewe lady, garisene peon drogimare.
When you went Gewelle, Mapio Marda, Gewelle Peg, ye, Gewelle, you got pay what is. Figures, what's it? I know the Gwelle, the Cartini Peg race, Lana, the Gwelle, the drink Samarwa, drink chicken, sunny Nicha, Nanima, Hita. That's Henya, she did university. 쭉 두냐 리지 파도라 거의 간제 고 드링 마샤면서 찍을 산이 마샤면서 당고 드링 디보 산이 아주 디보디 당 레디 사데서 그 2차 순지야 야에 패도 그래서
Virtuous karmas increase. Virtuous karmas do increase. Non-virtuous karmas increase. They're the same in that way that they increase. Now, the first question, why is it that non-virtuous karmas increase?
Okay.
They increase because a non-virtuous karma is accumulated today. And then tomorrow, it hasn't been addressed with an antidote power. And is there twice then. And then the following day, 4 times. And then on increasing in this way.
지금 서버 맞다면 드링답 산이 되어서 배나니가 있지만 로직시도 시무세로 나신 거야 패려 시과레스 근데 셈기 쪽이 예버디 일레 답답 패려 그래서
And just as today a seed is planted and it grows, and then at the end of the year has grown into a tree, so the seed's growth in the physical world, mental increase, the increase in karmas increases at a greater rate still than that.
So can we also, how come we can't also say the same thing about positive karma? If positive karma is a seed, and if it's the seed is going to grow into a tree, like in the physical world, then mentally could it also be increased?
But 가르치는 아니 계획을 디벨드로기 말해. 가르치네.
계획을 폐기
It does. It increased. It increases. It increases.
그래서 지난게 좋대. 드링 지난게 멘도지 피베. 손놈 til라 때네. 디 멘도지 피워라 때네. 드링 레직사버 사니니 나숨 폐지고 지금 폐기 열어서.
Today you offer a flower. That's today's virtuous karma. Today, and then tomorrow it has multiplied twice. And then multiplies again on the 3rd day and the 4th and so on, increasing in just the same way. They both, virtuous karmas and non-virtuous karmas, increase together. They do.
And if
the virtuous karmas increase with great intensity, then we must celebrate.
I have a follow-up to James' question, and that is, are we taught, and is it true that what's happening is negative karma is emphasized because of the prominence or the frequency of our negative karma versus our positive karma? Is that what's happening? Is that we're so off balance in terms of positive and negative that's why the negative karma is more significant?
다들 최체 잠발아로 아니 딕벨레디 닌텐 체고베 겸슨데 아니 단다 바도 가서 아니 딕벨레라 공티 체와 아니 여창 닌텐 체고베 겸슨데레레 아니 가서 찬 용보든데 아니 요마레 가서 아니 딕베 초라 아니 공티 슈체와 여창 아니 닌텐 체고베 겸슨데레레 That's one reason.
So the Carson also Dungi Yapo Machana Dungi the Machana Dungi Kana Chuma Jungi, good Seju Chigmar. Dungi, good Seju Machana, and it Dungi Pang to him, Tapshi Yomar. Oh, says that Dungi the Paya Tandala, Dungi Moshi, Dungi Moshi, Dungi Kana to be good Seju. And beauty parka, Dungi never child, it's not Tapshi, so the reason.
That's one reason. It's not the main reason. The main reason is not knowing suffering. If one does not identify suffering, one will not search out the cause of suffering. When the cause of suffering is not sought, then it cannot be abandoned. It is to abandon pain that one searches out, searches for its cause, finding its cause, non-virtuous karmas. The non-virtuous karmas are abandoned so that pain may finally be abandoned.
Better Sashina, Namra, Chimbu, Lesuna, Namra, same thing Namra, Dungi was, and Namsa Dungi, Dungi, that Namra K, the Kaneke, the Middle Namsa Seju was, and it's Karzin Namra K, Namra K, Seju Chigua, and it's Seju Chen and Shineko, Namra never so good. Or did not see Kanta Dungi singing it, and we Dungi the Moshi Machina, and Dungi never so to a Tashi or Maresons. Dungi to Shemba.
For example, too, if one is anxious, one becomes very anxious, so anxious that it is painful, then one will look to find out why one has become so anxious, so that the cause of that anxiety might be eliminated, so one won't be anxious. One identifies suffering because if one does not, one will not find the cause of that suffering. It's for the reason that we say suffering must be known as suffering.
아주 동해 대목에서 사 보고 건너진다 되라 동해 대백 계주 시샤이 마 계주시 장대 다다 시스 장와 대와 동바 아니 장대 다바 들어와 장와 대와 다바체 아니 다음에 봤어 계주 시샤이 마 제가 계주 시디나는 아주 그다 한다 담론나 이게 동해 대비 기주 시리 맞으면 셈나 딱딱 레투요 말 맞을라 가르센다 미자와라 짜와지 동해는 대화지 미타발라 딱바지 다도 맞고발라 다도 그거 지대도 왔어 제가다 지에서 맞 동해 대비 뭐시야 말 왔어 제가 어디 냠내는 대비시 냠내는 방법도 용어로 와서
Regarding suffering, in the Thursday class, suffering with 4 characteristics, that one is unclean, that one is in pain, that one is impermanent, and that one is selfless. These are properties which go along with, or rather, these go along with the presentation of the truth of suffering, these four qualities. We aren't yet able to grasp, we don't yet understand suffering as it is, for we misconstrue a filthy body to be a clean body, states of dissatisfaction to be satisfactory, impermanence to be permanent, and absence of self to be, in fact, selfhood. So long as these misunderstandings remain, we haven't yet comprehended suffering as it is, so the emphasis first upon suffering. Look at your own body, point at your own body, and realize that it is filthy, and you think of it as a clean thing, that it is painful, but you think of it as painless, that it is impermanent, but you think of it as permanent, and that no self is established in it, yet you believe a self to be established in it. These are four mistaken impressions. There's no comprehension of suffering as yet, so long as these misapprehensions remain. Quite apparently, we are very weak when it comes to that which would correct our over familiarity with non-virtue. That virtue which corrects the non-virtues is weak in us. We hold very tightly to, hew very closely to our non-virtuous habits.
We have some questions about the planting of the seed with regard to positive things. So I think so. Our sense is it's the plan, the execution, and then satisfaction within the outcome. And by that, it's just. I think Satya's question was just simply checking, and his example was like, I'm going to help somebody with their groceries. I help them put them in the car, and then I just check to see that they're in the car. Is that the total thing? And then my question relates to the second question is around sort of that dedicating the merits and the relationship with dedicating merits, making it like a Mahayana thing to do that quickly thereafter. So just a little bit more explanation of what that satisfaction with the outcome is, and then what its relationship is to the Mahayana sort of dedicating around the positive action.
Nigi tiwat di ta de gisi ge saben tap chu pe lang ne zhe shi jian nang shuang ta de dang bo de gun long de ne wan su gyoro na de mar gun long de ne par de mo su che ba mar de mar wona dang bo de sum sang go de le check drobya la ani sum 아니 케주 숨 상고야디 군롱 데네 바르드 데네 아니
제고
죽라 아니 드르블라 아 컨유서 맞췄어 컨드스 라우리 데다데 아니 레가 저 간리 간식 제발라 담보디 군론디 제그레 라 데네 바르드 아니 ngosu drup kore tene jukla ti tata drupshas ane ti tagro te ane satya ki thiwa garade sen pena ani nge mi shamba la ropa chedu pena ani nyoche gyap che tenzo ani moda la ane luya la ropa chena nge ge ropa chene tata look shane tata look du mandu seche chewa de ane jukla Juki Jawa Rive. Ani dene chik dene ani ngegi amegi chiwa gararesana chita ani tekching gi chö su drobiala yinjik minji ani ngowa kyachim barwa ani ngowa dan ani juki Jawa denigi drawa kandisig yome sabu taswa 살라마타
간단 자와 가리네 개발이요 말했어. 자와 가리네 빼는 밀러로가 제이네 디그리 아니 밀러 밖에 최셔바이네 디그리 아니 가르지네 자와 가르지네 양다고 당부 고 자와디 차상 상야라야 당부 원도 상부 왜 지기인 사람들 삼로 직제 아니 무엇이 지도 교함해 봐체 아니 죽도 자당에 제일 딕송 삼바 디숨디 상나 아니 잘라다 말하면 그 다고 차가 돼서 뭐다.
It's the same in all cases, whatever the particular, whether it's helping another person in this way or teaching the Dharma, for the act to be completed, it requires these three, that there's the initial intention to engage in it, there's the execution of it seen through to completion, and the completion is the awareness, I did complete it just as intended. It is the case in all cases that these three
다 대긴 아주 깨지 시티에 그렇게랑 저거는 여러 좀 사이 이걸 저거 가실래서 뒤져디나래 안달 다 먼저 디벨 레디 스톱 채워 열에서 가르치는 있어와 디벨 레디는 단다 먼저 굴웅 아무 먼저 굴웅 무식이 차와 죽도 배제 차이는 사람 디버디 차상 창원이자 그 디버디 스톱 채워 차기 도와서 딱 개와들랑 아주 공식이요 말에 종을 주숨 야고 창기요 말에 마상원에서 그것도 중앙 쇼르고 열에서
and the intensity or the greater familiarity with non-virtue is the very thoroughgoing nature of every non-virtuous act, in the sense that the intention will be present, and the execution present, and the completion present. All of these factors of involved in an action are always present in non-virtuous cases. But in the case of virtuous karmas, we're wanting for that completion in all three respects. They aren't always present, all three together, leaving the action incomplete and comparatively weak compared to the non-virtuous karmas.
그 저기 버들은 뭐도 저기 메게 도와. 이 지난 뭐 생이디 아주기 제백이 개와되게 추수도 먼저야. 합시지래서 뭐 제디. 그래서 개와사 사교디 예 먼저 라 먼저 총으로 먼저야. 아니 뭐도 저기 요래서 이제 어디 수잖아.
그래, 말라야. 직체성. 야. 양자 치성.
저 뭐 죽이 차와 뭐 쓰지도 디 랑기 탄다 겨와 제 샤교기 겨와 디 바로 예만도야 라만도야 충로만도야 탄다라 당모와 팅지미지 지구고요 그래서
And the question regarding dedication, the dedication is to ensure the preservation of the virtuous karmas. It is the conclusion of an action that the accumulated virtue not dissipate, never be lost, and never be reduced in any way.
다 저디 술들 되게 바게다 티버침을 쳐로 로마로 계시 지워질래서 다 지난 것도 비균이 시도다 만에 새 디기 디지기 탄다라 삼로 땅에 내가 가르쳐 봐 있는데 칠 두고 말했어. 다직 죄사다. 산삼직 쇠살. 다 디네 수수 대두고 된다라 삼로 땅에 제가 있나? 아니 티버침을 쳐로 두고 말했어. 산삼 쇠살. 다 디인도 잡아 티버침을 쳐서 줘라. 시맹이 삼로고 심어지 거래. 제가 쳐서 줘라. 세심한 pinchiki dewa tuwe gyula tuwa shikuwa. Odi sanzam delisi yore songi.
And then there was the part of the question having to do with the Mahayana intention, or rather the Mahayana dedication, whether a given activity, given action will be a Mahayana action or not. Wherever the intention is to benefit only in this present life, this is not conducive of Mahayana Dharma. Case closed. When there is biased self-interest, when the interest is personal, related to one's own wish for personal satisfaction and to avoid dissatisfaction personally, nor does this conduce to the Mahayana Dharma. Case closed too there. For the Mahayana Dharma to come about, the action must be conjoined with the intention to be of altruistic benefit to another. And the action itself must become cause for contentment in subsequent lives. Then if there are no questions for 1 minute, we'll meditate.
다 들은 것도 곰디 가리스는 제곰체. 민당은 곰디야. 다 어디 숨다.
And now the meditation will be an analytic meditation with eyes open.
다 수수 간데 되기는데 얘는 되기는데 가지고 데스타 곰디야기 죄시드 가리스나 당한도 다지 님부터 없이도 저요 같이 이송하시.
And now in the actual meditation, the position that you'll adopt, that's for you to choose. You may lie down. And the actual meditation is upon the antidote powers.
가르쳐도 아주 니마찍 나라. 나랑이 니마찍 들은 게 니마찍이 아니 아주 디바 망아체도 여와 망아체도 딱지 체하게 냠내 체 이송.
And then today, the day we'll look to is today. And we'll look to see, are there more virtues for which I am responsible in this day, or more non-virtues for which I am responsible in this day? This will be the practice now.
다 수수가 니마직 쇼게 라면 아니 자와 꿀ung 가르쳐도 자와 가르쳐도 단다 가르쳐도 건다 가르쳐도 어디 수수가 니마직 챙겨디 아니야 삼나봐 제가 뭐 삼나땅 아니 삼나땅 아니 셈바디 마이와 제미다 삼도다 아니 야고 제도나 야고 제샤 수수수 가와스건 야고 제면은 땅에 때 제기도서 너르샤산 아니 여바치 제투가지 그래서
Then from rising in the morning with a given intention, what was the intention? Examine that. And then as one goes about doing things during the day, what were they? The ones that happened in the morning and then the ones that are ongoing in the afternoon. In order, following each, without any distraction, looking to the actions and finding a good one. Whoa, that is good. That's cause for celebration. Finding a bad one. Ah, oops, this is cause for regret. Actually looking one by one at one's actions in a day.
Oh yeah, that yamne su green ming lava ina. Jesu irang tang. Ani rangis chebe lela shakbada jesu irang yamne yamdu chigi resong.
In a word, it is the practice of rejoicing, and in a word, it is the practice of confession.
Oh yeah, that di nima la chikwa di. That I kechimbushira ya resong.
Day by day, just this practice is crucially important.
Oh, di cheba ina. Ani gewa chigyodo zo shukchir topchir chiru, digwa chigyodo topchung tang tuyagi chagin resong.
And if one does just this, then one's virtues increase and one's negative non-virtues are reduced.
Oh yeah, yakuji de to kilumji de mena so khale so de de samba phane jin ba sha ilmi ya dang ana so chejo de sama ya tengo de so chemba nyamne.
If you can sit in Vajra position, then that's great. But most importantly, sit comfortably, whatever position that is, with your eyes open, reviewing, using mindfulness, your every action. This is a practice in mindfulness.
Yeah, oh yeah, ten ma dang moro azu gom tu gom.
The inhale, then retaining that breath, however long you're able to hold it in, meditate just then.
Kazin man zubulai ma zubuni de to so nems.
Yeah, and as I showed you, you press on your fingers just as I showed you.
Yeah, de pemo ga to so sha. De ozi de.
And place your hands on your knees, pressing your fingers so.
Yeah, ne che sun
1, 2, 3.
oh yeah, tang da tri. Nyamne chi du jesu irang dang. Shakbe nyamne ni do nyamdo chi tu ko res di ta nima chigla ningung chi jo di konda ten jesu irang shakba che jesu di gewa che na jesu irang che digwa che di shakba che konda chi yo di ni na pa shakba che o di che na 아니 가서다
Ale,
개와 아
kate.
가지 이모 개와 지교대 건다 제수라시 이모 디고 지교대는 건다 시작받체 어디 제가 냠내를 해서
This then the practice of, in a word, rejoicing and confession and purification. In the evening, reviewing all one has done. In the afternoon, and in the virtues, rejoicing. One in the evening, reviewing all one has done in the afternoon, all the non-virtues, and confessing and purifying them. This is the practice. And particularly, if one holds Vajrayana vows, Bodhisattva vows, and Pratimoksha vows, then this is indispensable. It's promised. One has committed to doing just this. So we'll conclude here and recite our closing prayers.
Rindu bele soni ji katar yambo tashi sabate Lome mare ji jondo wa yi nande gewe wangpo le chi Dema sumbe tsera kundu yang jande yang tsewe shizone Tembe limba kusan lamji cho, nyene robe gena nyeche cho. Rangi shishin tobe lamji ne, shudra tsewe chanve tapke gen. Roe ike muba seche ne, yewe temba yudri sinyu chi. Temba rinje choge macha kwa. Nyambar girve chode Yinze chengu yira jevar yi Rende fiji sevar sevar cho Seje gewe menjun chenle Lejo chanju namje rinpe kyam Targyu namje yila pede Gewe seva rinpe kyam gerve Langzang rübe düngen göçe gegen sece midan mimi güm Sera gündür geve mabayı Namdar landam rövarı maygirecek Kanze teva jöla çözü Züce rövar tümba değilse Namgı tadım rocece From my two collections, vast in space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, monitor truth. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teaching, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the point of the path as I have discerned them. May I hold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment, and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. And whenever someone asks me every day, in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the Mighty One, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Dagi chi sabe gewari dendang jowa kula gampenda Kevar jizon losan rabari Debe niemo ritu seji sho. Nari rawe korwe shimpande. Tena dewa jomwene. Jimin sewani jingyaso shabe sidi vade tengerejik. Tabe bawo jidara kingwa yang. Kundu sambo neyang dejinde. Teda gülge cezu dalıcı, gewa deda dance pradu. Tüzün şevi gewa tamcege, ngova kanga çoğu mavadı. Dahi geve zava digu ya, sambo çeşir radu ovarge. Çancu senco remboçe, maje bana gegirecek. Yeva yamba mevade, I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teaching, the Venerable Losang Drakpa to shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful generous and castle, please remain until psychic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantha Bhattacharya realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praise is the best by the victorious Liskan ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva deeds. May the supreme jewel of Bodhisattva that has not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Thank you, everybody. The weather's really nice, and if you have time, then come and relax outside and enjoy the meal. But if you don't have time, it's another matter. But if you do, please do.